Let's now take you to the South African Revenue Service, having approached the Constitutional Court for direct leave to appeal the order, compelling it to hand over Jacob Zuma's tax returns for his time as president to two media houses. The deadline imposed by Judge Norman Davis for Sars to release Zuma's tax returns to the Financial Mail and AmaBhungane expired yesterday. Joining me now is Professor Keith Engel, CEO of the SA Institute of Tax Practitioners, to give us more insight. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. And we changed our name. We're now the South African Institute of Taxation. It'll make it a lot easier for you to say.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Let's get straight into this matter. I mean, it's one that has ruffled a few feathers and a lot of questions being asked about it. And, of course, we know that this matter has prompted a flurry of public debate. Much of it argues that the central foundation of taxpayer confidentiality has been undermined. What's your take?
Well, I think, there's a lot of things that are going on here. This case is sort of a later step in several years of frustration. As a general matter, the service is correct that when it comes to your taxpayer returns and all of your affairs, that's a private matter. I'm not sure if you want people looking into your tax returns. The issues that are really going on here is that Zuma is a public official. The question is, do we as the public have a right to know what our public officials are paying in tax? And then there's the added frustration that's going on is that the problem simply is that we haven't done anything. So the problem is the government has not done anything. And you'll see there was a lawsuit against the MPA today and a complaint against them for not acting fast enough. And people are getting frustrated and they want action. And so now, unfortunately, Sars is in a position where they need to rely on the MPA to get this thing prosecuted, but they don't want to be revealing taxpayer returns to the public. So it looks like they're defending Zuma, but they're really trying to defend the public overall.
And the tax records are really understood to be confidential, to be private, but there are some exceptions. I mean, you've mentioned there the public interest version here. And just focusing on what's at stake and the information and the power of that information when it comes to a former president who is alleged to have flouted a country's tax laws during his term of office. Why is that so important to really, become a topic of public interest?
Well, I think, unfortunately, we're in a very unique situation in South Africa where we don't trust our officials at all anymore. And this has also been going around the world. At what point is your private affairs public? So a number of multinationals, Tax Justice Network want access to theirs. We also have other politicians. Look at Trump. Remember, people want his tax returns. So the question really is not a general matter, but at what point does the public interest step in? And for where? So, I mean, with Zuma, do we really care about his private affairs, or is it really that he hasn't paid, his salary, and he hasn't been taxed on his salary or his fringe benefits, or, has he gotten money on the side from government? So I would argue that there is a public interest for you to understand what's going on with the revenue that's being received from government. If you're getting salary, you're getting government tenders, then I think it becomes in the public interest. Now, the question is there a constitutional public interest? That's what the court decided, but the case is now going on appeal. So maybe the argument, maybe it'll get reversed. But should we enact a law to say public money needs to be seen publicly, I would be in favor of such a law. But it would be more on the public side. So when it comes to Zuma's private affairs, then I think that should remain private. We only have a public interest what is genuinely public.
Now, some of the takeaways from the judgment spoke to the law not doing enough to recognize transparency. How relevant is this argument when it comes to really getting to the bottom of what should be uncovered?
Well, I think, transparency is, in other words, is public access. So, and the difficulty when I'm looking at the judgment isn't contextualized. So we all know it's about Zuma, and we all know the frustration. But when you read the analysis of the case, they just sort of say, well, there are points when the public interest outweighs the private interest, and in this case, we think it outweighs, and they don't really give a lot of description. So one of the concerns is, how far does this go? And the court should have been very, very clear that the reason why there's a public interest is we're talking about public money. But they didn't do that. So you're not sure how far it goes, and that may put the judgment in suspicion. Again, it's only one level of the court. It's going to be appealed. So what the upper court does is anybody's guess. They might go along. They might take a less activist approach and say no, privacy should prevail. There is no constitutional right. Remember, the court case is about constitutional right overriding the law. My own personal view is Parliament should change the law for limited public access so that we should avoid this court action altogether.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time there, Professor Keith Engel, giving us his take there on Sars' appeal to the Constitutional Court to keep former President Jacob Zuma's tax secrets. Of course, we will find out the details throughout the course of the next coming days.